Hello everyone, so I didn't even know this was, I knew it was on its way, but I didn't know when it was going to get here. And this is the September card kit of the month. You can't really see that. I'm going to go in. And I thought I'd just show you what's in it because I get it so much later than when they show the previews. So this is a quick little view of what is in the box. And then I'll make some cards with it. So we get the 10 cards and bases. I always use those. There is a paper pad with 6x6 sheets that are paper, not cardstock. Can kind of see that, and then I'm just gonna flip through real quick. There's 2 of each sheet. This is a yarn. Love the sewing pin one. I really like this. It's a turquoise-like color. That's, whoops, too far. So after the turquoise we have like this pattern, this one, cutting mat, like sewing grid one. This is a lovely pattern, and it's got the gold foil with like safety pins and a sewing needle. I like this pattern a lot too. Did I skip one? No. Okay. This one, I really like this pattern. And can you see that? The gold foiling on some of these. It's like a stitched leaf-like design. Here's some sewing machines. I'm not crazy about the theme because I don't do a whole lot of sewing. Mostly I sew paper, if anything. But plus, I don't know, you know, who I'd give the cards to. But I really like how all their kits go so well together. And I'm also not crazy about pastels, so this is probably not my favorite kit. However, I think I'm going to make some fun cards with it. Even so, you get the, wait, where's the, there, this is, we get the chipboard embellishments. Yes, I usually show that at the beginning of my card video. Double stick tape and mounting squares, which I always use. I'm going to open this. I have some ideas for, I think I'm going to use the small ones, hopefully they fit on a card, and maybe a few of these ones. And they have adhesive, but sometimes I add extra. Then I'm going to save this for a moment. We have these chipboard stickers. They're all pretty cute. I don't know if I have a lot of ideas for the chipboard stickers yet, though. So we'll see how many of those I use. Stamp set. I'm just going to leave that in the package, and I'll probably, oh, I have an idea for the needle I might like to use. And then there's another sticker set that has 4 sheets, I believe. And they're all different. Oops, I just not saving that flap. So, upside down there. There's some gold foiling on it. These are mostly sentiments, which will be handy to use. I really like this bunny sticker. I think I might use that. And yeah, I don't know what else. And then cardstock. I'm pretty excited about the silver one because the last time they had that was in May of was it last year? I don't even know, but it was the kit that I didn't get. It was the beginning, it probably was 2020, but I don't know. Shipping, no, maybe it was 2021, I don't know, but shipping delays, etc. I never got the actual kit, so I never got my silver. I did end up getting a paper pad and a die pack that they had eventually for people that didn't get the kit, but nope, never got the silver, so I'm excited about that. Here is the dies that come with the kit. You get 2 circles. You get this little swirly guy, which I was thinking might make an interesting celebratory background. These are the pieces to make a needle and then the embroidery hoop parts. Flower, some centers for flowers. That looks like maybe a center or something, and then another little flower, a leaf, and these are either stems or buds, something of that sort. So, while I have the camera on, I'm going to go ahead and just empty out the die cut pieces. These are, yes, many people's favorite part of the kit. They're going everywhere. I got a leaf that got out of here. And they usually don't disappoint. But again, I'm not in love with the pastel. That's not my favorite, but I will still be able to use these and find a lot of, you know, fun things to do with it. So, alright, let's go ahead and see what I do with the cards. Alright, for card number 1, I'm starting with this floral pattern paper, and I have just rounded the one corner with the, I think it's the 1/2 inch, the larger round edge that my corner chomper does, and that's just a style choice there. Then I have a strip of the cross-stitch heart pattern paper, and that's a nice long rectangle I'm going to place all the way up to the top and bottom of the card. Then I'm going to use the chipboard sticker. This is kind of a peachy one with a faint light stripe, and I am taking the backing paper off, and I've got a kind of hand-cut circle that I cut out of the pink white polka dot background paper, and that's just to kind of draw it out of the background so it's not too busy to kind of separate from that floral background paper. So I'm going to go ahead and use my liquid glue and place this all down, and I'm going kind of towards the upper half of the card and at an angle. I like that angle there. And to finish off the card, I have another chipboard sticker. This is the, I don't know, is that a pheasant or a quail? And it has a needle in its mouth, and I don't know, I just was inspired to use it when I was making this card. I wasn't planning on it, but I ended up using it. Now I'm putting it over the chipboard embroidery hoop. So you see, what you see me doing here is using some scrap pieces of doubled up cardstock. So that's 2 of the standard cardstock that comes in the kit, and placing those on the spots where it overlaps. So where it's not resting on that chipboard heart. And you can kind of see there so that it doesn't warp when it's squished. And finally, I have the die cut sentiment. That's kind of a stitched script. Lovely. And I just pulled my stash of scrap mounting foams here. I have a thinner mounting foam tape here that I'm just going to use instead of messing with the cardstock there for the part that hangs off. So you see 2 methods. I use 2 methods in one card of how to balance that dimension out. Card number 2, I loved this bunny sticker. I mentioned that if you watched the unboxing earlier. And I thought it went really well with this floral pattern paper. Again, I like to leave that white border. I'm going to take a nice white rectangle from the cardstock in the kit, and a rectangle of that kind of cable knit pattern, yarn pattern. It's a faint blue, and there isn't technically really any blue in my background paper, but it has the same kind of color hue as the purple, and so it goes, really. I think it goes. I don't know. What do you think? Then there's this, it's almost a sketchy gingham or a brush stroke gingham type pattern. It's pink and white, and I have a long rectangle of that. I'm just having it overlap about 1/4 inch in over that other rectangle piece, and then I'm placing my sticker down and using my bone folder to get it nice and stuck. It has pretty decent adhesive, so I didn't add anything. Another sticker from that 4-page sticker pack was this amazing, and I just I went back and forth on what sentiment or what sticker I wanted. I really liked the kind of the mint green, and I wanted to just bring a little more out, and finishing off the card with 3 chipboard stickers, 2 button hearts, and the button flower down there in the bottom, and this is how it turns out. So for card number 3, it's a shaker card, and I started with the white card base, little border of the white, and this lovely navy floral with floral pattern. And for my background for my shaker, I wanted to use this other kind of navy pattern with the stitched flower look. So I'm just kind of gonna show you how I hand cut the circle before. I think I was thinking about cutting the circle out of the back side, but I ended up doing it this way, and so you see a penciled circle on the other side, and I accidentally did it wrong at first, so you know, I had to take it off there, but I need to put my flower paper down first, before I build the shaker element, so that's where I was starting in the wrong area. So now I'm just using my embroidery hoop as a visual aid for where I want it. I want it, again, in sort of the top half there, because I have a couple of the things that I want to put below to balance it. So now that I have the background paper down, I'm going to fix where my chipboard element has gotten a little bit damage there on the corner of the hoop element. And I'm just taking some packaging from the kit, from one of the sticker packs or the stamp set, I'm not sure. And I am carefully tearing it open, but then it tore in a funny way and I had to trim it. I just need enough to cover this whole area. And then I'm going to use my scissors to trim around. That was tedious, so I got rid of some of that for you. And then I stick it down with my bone folder, and I'm going to first prep my card with a little bit of anti-static powder because I find that helps things to not stick to the acetate or the packaging. And then I have these sequins from a previous kit, and I'm placing them down. And then I need to build my shaker well. In order for the sequins to shake really well, it does need a little bit of dimension. You can do it flat, but then they don't move as easily. And I just wanted a lot of shaking, I guess. And I have this 2mm, I think that's what it was, or 3mm. Maybe it's 3mm. Thin mounting tape. So I've gone around and I want to seal up the area first. Then I went around a second time just so that it all has a level place to land on the card. And I wasn't as careful around the second one because the first one's going to hold the sequins in. So then take the backer off and place it down. I've got some gluey bits on there, and this is my handy dandy rubber eraser which takes off those. So, and as long as I'm careful, it doesn't take off anything else. I decided to look at my oxide inks, and I found saltwater taffy was a nice color. I liked how it looked, and I stamped it onto this little white card, and again I rounded 2 corners. That's just a personal preference there. So I went ahead and did that off camera, and then I decided, yeah, I'm going to use the foam stickers that come in the kit, foam tape that comes in the kit, to pop that up and, you know, make it level with the dimension of the chipboard sticker. It's a little bit wider, but it works. And so I'm going to finish off this card with this other chipboard sticker. So I did end up using a lot more chipboard stickers than I thought I was going to. And again, I'm going to take the part that's overhanging and add a little bit of foam tape so that it's not just hanging off into nowhere. So here's the die set, and I think the only die I used was this needle, but I loved it. And I have a lot of gold card from previous kits. I keep even the tiny scraps, and so I just cut this out of the gold card because there is that gold accent on that embroidery hoop metal part that's on the chipboard sticker, and so I liked how this looked with that. And that's just my final touch for card number 3. And of course we gotta give it a shake here. All that loveliness. It's always fun to shake shaker cards. Card number 4, when I first saw this pattern paper with these pins, sewing pins, I don't know, I found it mesmerizing. I really like that pattern paper, so I wanted to use it. And I'm going to pair it with this check pattern, this pale purple check pattern, and I've cut 4 equal rectangles out of it. And I started with a bigger rectangle, but I ended up cutting them smaller because I didn't want to cover up any more of that lovely pattern paper. And so now the tricky part is laying them out relatively equally. It's almost like a window, but it's just kind of a design effect. It's not meant to look like a window, but, you know, kind of like the window panes. So here, the wet glue is really helpful here because I have a little bit of time to kind of move things around. I want the distance from the top and the bottom to be about the same, and the sides to be pretty close to the same, and then that distance in between the inner parts of the rectangles I'd like to be close to the same. So it's okay. It's a little wonky, but it works with the handmade card. I've already cut some fun foam, and then these are 2 stickers from the sticker set. My fun foam was a little bit too big still. You'll see here in a moment. I'm adding just a little bit of adhesive because it's an odd surface. It's not sticker to paper, so I wanted to make sure it stuck. Here I need to trim a little more of my little foam heart pattern paper. Pattern paper? What am I saying? Okay, and now I'm going to stick it down. Now you see in the center of this floral wreath, it says Simple Things. That is, in fact, another sticker. It did say today, and I'll show you where it came from here in a moment, I believe. and I forgot that while I was kind of playing with the cards that I had stuck that on there. And I realized here, there's all kinds of mistakes in this video, but I realized here, oh yeah, I want to stick these scraps down. I have some more scraps of gold, and I could have had a piece that went across there, but you're not going to see the middle, so I just took 2 small pieces and cut little flags in them and put them down. Here's where I realized, oh yeah, I have 2 stickers here. So I'd taken the second one to cover up. I don't know, I just wasn't feeling the today message for the card. And it's not that different, simple things, but for some reason that just was what I wanted that moment. And I'm finishing it off with a few of the chipboard stickers, buttons, and that's it for the 4th card. Card number 5, I also really liked this cutting mat pattern paper when I saw it. And I knew I wanted to use it. So I also have a nice navy rectangle from the cardstock. I'm going to try to center that. I'm just eyeballing it, but you got to be extra careful when there are straight lines in your background paper. And then there was this pattern paper, which I'm showing you a nice close-up of. Lots of fun notions and things in that pattern paper. And this one is also a rectangle, but it's a little bit longer and not as wide. And so there's about a 1/4 inch of difference between those. Then I have the stickers again, and this, I really liked the Sew with the Flow, and I liked that minty color. I've got the die cut scissors that I've put all that mounting tape up onto that I'm going to put here in the corner, and then a few more die cuts from the die cut pack. The yellow measuring tape I'm going to lay down flat. And then there was a second measuring tape die cut that is kind of a pinky color, but without the numbers. Popped that up on foam, and then there even had a tiny die cut of a little gold needle, which I adored. It's a little bit smaller than the die cuts out, but I like how it worked on this card, so I threw that in there. Kind of goes with the Sew with the Flow sentiment. And this is the 5th card. So I really had fun making cards with this kit, even though I wasn't so sure about the theme. So for card number 6, I'm doing something crazy. This pattern paper, I just was inspired with the circles. I thought, I've got to do some stitching. And I don't even ever do hand stitching on cards, but yeah, I did it. And so I have a piece of foam, fun foam, that I'm also going to use. I've already cut down, and here I am showing you. I think this is called a tapestry needle, but basically I picked one that has kind of a duller tip. As you can see there, it's not as sharp. It still will poke you, but I poke myself all the time, and so this one is at least not going to make me bleed very easily. It also has a larger eye, and so it's easier to get that embroidery floss through. So I had found some embroidery floss, and I'm trying to poke a hole right in the center. I was going to use a pokey tool, and then I realized, well, I could just use the needle to poke the holes. So I'm speeding that up here. I've penciled out my little heart design, and then I'm going to go ahead and erase that. And I am really loving how this turns out. It was kind of a crazy idea, and I wasn't sure how it was going to work, but you'll just have to wait and see the results here coming up not too long. I've never done anything like that on a card before, and so that was pretty fun to try it out. So here now, I think also this is called, I think it's called a running stitch, but correct me if I'm wrong, because you know I'm not so much of a sewer. So I'm going in, and you'll see that and this was much to my dismay at first, that it skips, right, with this stitch. And so basically I wanted a solid line. So what I have to do, for here I'm actually taping it down because I realized, oh yeah, I need to pull it tight. But you got to be super careful with paper because, you know, it'll tear. So I'm being the most gentle ever that I usually am. And then I just go around a second time in order to fill in the gaps where there isn't a thread. I hope that makes sense. It's really hard to show it on video without it being extremely long, but hopefully you'll see when you can see the back side also. And I will slow it down here in a minute, or less than a minute. But it was just so long, the stitching part, because I was going real slow so I wouldn't tear it. So you can see now the back side looks like the front. Oh, and there's another problem too, is I ran out of, my embroidery floss was only a certain length. So here, where I run out, I'm just tying a tiny knot here, very carefully, without pulling it too tight to tear my paper. And then I'm going to tuck the strands under this washi that I had holding the start strand. And then I just continue on going every other hole, or, you know, and finish up the outline of my heart. And then we'll have a look, see what it looks like here momentarily. And this at point, I'm looking at it and I'm like, this is cool, yeah, but I kind of want a little more. So I decided to go around one more time so that there's actually 2 threads every other hole. And I could have gone around a 4th time in order to make it be 2 threads for every hole. But I decided I liked it like that and I was going to tie it off. It just needed a little something more to, in my opinion. And here I'm trimming the strings, but that first one I never tied off or anything, so I'm just going to grab a little piece of Scotch tape so that it doesn't get pulled out somehow. It's going on the back anyway. And this is it. That's the back side. And you can see, and the front side, you can see those 2 strands kind of every other hole. And I think it just gives it a really neat look. So there's a lot of option here. You could also get a similar look, maybe with a marker, or I tried with puffy paint, but I really like the texture and dimension that actually doing the floss does. So this one's a super special card. And now I'm going to add a little glue because I've got, you know, I have the adhesive backed fun foam, but I've got all that floss, embroidery floss on there as well. So I'm going to place that down, and then this is my panel ready to go on my card. Now I need more wet glue because this side of the foam didn't have any adhesive on it. And I cut this panel so that there's a little bit wider of a border, that white border. It's closer to 1/2 inch. I'm not sure if it's exactly 1/2 inch, but a little bit wider than I normally leave. And then I have another little piece of embroidery floss, and then I took this chipboard, another chipboard sticker, believe it or not. So happy for you today. I'm going to place that in the bottom corner there. Looks a little crooked. I wonder if I fixed that or if it stayed that way. And then I just tied a tiny little bow in my embroidery floss, and I did put a little dot of glue on my knot because this embroidery floss is silky, and so that it stays put. And then I fiddle with the placement a bit. But this is a pretty simple card. It does take more time, but I really like how it turned out, and it's definitely something new for me to try, so had a lot of fun with that one. Card number 7, I loved this cross-stitch heart pattern paper. I used it twice, and so that's the main background. And then I have 3 gold squares from my scraps. Those didn't come in this month's box, but have come in previous box, the gold card. And the wet glue, again, is really important here because I'm trying to line them up with a relatively equidistant space from that right-hand side and then the top and bottom. And then I'm going to try to keep the distance between the first and the third squares close to the same so that it looks balanced and not totally off. And then I have a little bit of wiggle room to kind of straighten things as the glue dries. I have 3, I think they're 1 inch or they maybe 1 1/4 inch squares. I can't remember exactly. I think the stickers are 1 inch. So the white part is 1 1/4, and then I made the gold like whatever is like 1 3/8 or something, whatever is 1/8 of an inch larger than 1 1/4. And I've already got the stickers on the little squares, and again I've rounded 2 corners, and here I'm just alternating where the rounded corner is pointing. That's sort of just my little design decision there, so that it's just adds a little something, I guess. And get that cleaned up a little with my paper towel. There's another boo-boo on this card. Yeah, I was going to put this strip down before the rainbow, the white part, or yeah, before the gold part, because I didn't want to cover up too much of the rainbow. But here's how I fixed it, sort of, and I don't think you can really tell that I messed it up, because, sorry, I bumped my microphone there, but yeah, so don't give up if you make a mistake. I've made lots of mistakes while making these cards. I'm not sure why. Probably, you know what, it's probably because I didn't get good sleep a couple nights ago, and that seems to have a lingering effect. But you just keep on keeping on, and you make something out of it. And this one, I didn't even have to change too much. I was just able to work with it as it was and make it, it's just the way I planned. It's just, I didn't plan to be cutting the piece. So finishing it off with 2 die cut hearts there in the bottom, and really like how this turned out, especially with the fact that I made such a big boo-boo. All right, card number 8, I'm starting with this sewing machine pattern paper in the background with a little white border on my white card. Then I have a nice pale purple rectangle that's cut out of the cardstock that comes in the kit. And then I have this pattern paper, and I'm just going to lay it horizontally. And I have this white cardstock that, remember the sewing needle I was so inspired by? This, I'm going to make my own little pattern paper. I'm using some VersaFine Onyx black ink, which is a pigment ink. So in the one that I tape onto the card, I have let it dry. So this is the second one I'm doing on camera here. And I am using an acrylic block, and I'm just doing a little wiggle as I stamp it down, and I'm leaving a space in between the needles that's about enough room to put another needle, and I'm intentionally stamping one up higher and one lower so that I don't have to try to get them straight. They're intentionally wonky. Then I'm going to rotate my card and go into the middle places, so I don't even have to move my stamp at all. I moved the cardstock, and I'm going to stamp again in between each, and it's not perfect. I missed one, you can see. Well, the great thing about that is you always have a backside, but I do suggest, if you're going to do this, to try it on some scrap first, just to see how it feels, and yeah, and then you're not wasting paper, and see what your block does, what your ink does, because that is a tiny little stamp, but the wiggle definitely helps get it down. Not too much of a wiggle, just a little wiggle. So I'm pulling in some more embroidery floss here, this lovely yellow color, and I'm going to use the double stick tape that comes in the kit to hold it down to my little panel here. And I'm wrapping it around twice, and I'm going to kind of cross it in, not the middle, but sort of on the right hand half. And I like that look. That's just, I like to see, you know, it's coming in at an angle and it has a little cross point. I'm going to trim off the excess, add a lot of extra glue here. I've got tape runner, and then I'm using the wet glue because of the embroidery floss, so I think it needs a little extra. And then I can place this down onto my card that I'm making here. And I'm using another chipboard sticker when I wasn't even sure I was going to use them. You see that stitched rainbow there, and that's going to be hold my focal point here. So I definitely want to add a little adhesive here just because I'm putting it on top of embroidery floss and some dimension. So I'm going to press that down. And then I have this sticker from the sticker pack. So lovely. I just have it on a piece of parchment. That's sometimes what I do when I'm trying things out. And again, the die set, the one die I really like to use was the sewing needle. This time I did cut it out in the silver, and I added a little scrap of that embroidery floss through it. So I'm going to put some glue on and then kind of spread it with my finger because it is a tiny surface there. And place this down on the rainbow and fiddle with my strings to get them where I want them, and then I'll just add a dot of glue to hold it so that they stay put there. Yes. And again, I'm bringing in my little pokey tool to help me because the glue gets on my fingers and then it sticks to things and pulls things, and so it's nice to have a little tool to use instead of your finger. And this is how it turns out, and I really love this card. It's definitely one of my favorites. So card number 9, I loved the turquoise paper from the start and wanted to use it. I am bringing in a doily from my stash. I've got lots of these doilies and I really like to use them. I just love that delicate look it adds. So I put a whole lot of glue on there because there's a lot of space, and then I'm going to press it down with paper towel so that anything that leaks out can get collected by that towel. Then I trim off the excess. And I'm using a die cut from the die cut pack, that sewing pin element there, and I've already stuck it to the back of some extra gold card from a previous kit from my stash. And look at here I go again, putting it down and rubbing it down real well, except I wanted to put something behind there. Oops. So these 3 embroidery flosses from the die cut pack, they each have a little sentiment as well. Thankfully, I'm using wet glue, so I pulled that up pretty easily when I realized it. And then this one says Stunning, the yellow one, and I'm going to stick them behind, coming out of that element. And then I have pink, which is wonderful, but I want to make sure that the sentiment is kind of all facing the same direction. And then Amazing, which is, I think it's like a pale blue, a purplish blue color. Maybe we'll call it periwinkle. Now I need to add more glue because that dried in the interim, but I'm now placing down my circle element here, and I'll finish off the card with 2 sticker sentiments. You're so special. I backed that onto some scrap gold card with the little tails and put it on the mounting squares, and the last one is made with love, and I stuck that onto a scrap of adhesive backed fun foam from my little stash of them. Card number 10 was that pattern paper. This might have been my favorite. I just love how elegant and simple it looks, and I have a large piece of gold card from previous kits that I've put it onto, so it has that in it also. And I'm just going to showcase this pattern paper with one of these large floral clusters from the die cut pack. And then I picked out 2 smaller flowers from the die cut pack. I have the blue and white trio of flowers, and then the white one, I picked that one especially because it has a little bit of gold in the center, and so I like bringing out that gold in different places. So I have some thinner foam on this trio of flowers, and then the foam that comes in the kit on the large white flower, so there's a little bit of a variety of dimension there. And finally, the sticker with love is also backed onto my adhesive backed fun foam from my scrap stash, and that will finish off card number 10. This might be my favorite, and it's so simple. So I'm going to bring all 10 cards in again to have a quick look. I hope you enjoyed seeing my ideas and what I did with this kit. I was surprised because I said in the beginning, this is not my favorite theme. I didn't think I was going to enjoy it as much as I did, but I really had a lot of fun creating with this kit, and I think it stretched my creativity a bit. And again, I think I still don't love pastels, but this kit comes together so well, and there was a lot of stuff that wasn't necessarily pastel. Thanks again for watching, and have a wonderful and creative day. Bye!